Councillor Susan O'Leary, thank you for stopping by the Los Alamos Daily Post newspaper to talk about the County Council's communication strategy.
Thank you for having me, Carol. I really appreciate the opportunity to speak with you.
Sure. I know this is an issue that's going to be on the agenda Tuesday night at your regular County Council meeting here in the Municipal Building Council chambers. So this is very timely to kind of explain to the community where you're coming from, what this strategy is all about, and how it evolved and so forth.
Great. Well, last February, we as a council sat down and looked at our strategic goals, and these goals have been developed over many decades. And some of the goals include communicating effectively with our public and transparency, making sure our government is as transparent as possible. And in this strategic planning retreat, the council identified communication as one of our top 3 priorities to focus on going forward.
For the council, as opposed to the county, which has their own public information officer and so forth.
Absolutely, that's a great point, because the county does have a public information officer. She and her staff do a great job focusing on communicating about all of the county events and the county operations. The Utilities Department has a great public relations group that focuses on communicating on issues specific to the utilities. What we're talking about tomorrow night, and what we talked about at our meeting last week, is a communication strategy for the council specifically. And the council has very specific responsibilities. We are the elected representatives of the citizens, and we are responsible for setting the strategy for the county. This strategy is what the county staff uses to make their decisions about how to spend money at the department level and what kind of services to be providing to our citizens. We also have the responsibility to make sure that we are spending county money in a way that best serves the citizens and ideally best achieves the strategic goals of our community. And that happens through the approval of the annual budget. The third area that we have a responsibility for is evaluating and improving the management effectiveness of the county. And so those 3 areas are what we're focused on when we talk about a communication strategy for the county council.
I see. And so what you're wanting to get across to the community, our readers and our listeners here, is what that is involving. And that's what's going to be discussed tomorrow night at the council meeting. So maybe you could just give us a little breakdown of what the strategy will involve.
Right. So at our meeting last week, we took a look at a number of different municipal governments that do a good job of communicating in these areas with their public. We looked at the websites of these municipal governments, but really the discussion was not about what we need to do with our website. It was about communicating specific topics, communicating where is our county going? Is the elected body making decisions in order to achieve the goals of the community? It is focused on how are we spending tax dollars. And right now what we do is our incredible financial department in the county, they produced last year a 222-page document that is required by state law, that has generally accepted accounting principles, that explains how the county spends taxpayers' dollars.
And that is something that is so difficult for the average citizen to understand.
It was, you know, I'm an MBA and I have a number of years with general management experience working with budgets, and I spent hours poring over it to really understand it, and hours talking to our county people to ask questions. And I think the practice has been to take that document and put it in the library and let citizens know that it's there, and so that people could find out how we're spending the money. But other governments do things like what's called a popular accounting financial report, and they take that 222-page document and turn it into a 16-page document that highlights the information citizens would be most interested in.
In plain speak.
In plain speak. And that's really what has to happen is that you can't produce an accounting document and expect a typical individual to be able to understand that. And I think we believe as a council that we have an obligation to communicate in these areas. You know, these are our areas of responsibility. These are the services we're providing as elected representatives to serve the community, and we need to get back to the community with good, clear, easily accessible information about how we're doing our jobs.
And so in tomorrow night's council meeting, what do you anticipate will be the discussion, and will there be any action on it?
So, yes, and before I answer that, let me just mention the third point,
Sure.
which is about performance measurements. And that's where we as a council can understand how is our county operation doing, and citizens can understand that also. And I'll give you a very specific example. When I was out campaigning last year, I heard from a number of people that people are having trouble with the permitting process that the county has. People who want to do additions to their houses, they want to put in sheds in their backyards, they want to start a new business and move into new commercial space. And I heard enough about it, and so did other councilors that are currently sitting on the council, that it was concerning to us. And so, but as a councilor, I don't actually get performance measurements that show me how the current process is working from a big picture standpoint. So I don't know if the issues that I heard about, the specific issues, are the exception, or if there's actually a more chronic problem with the way our permitting process works. And that kind of information should be available to the councilors, and it should be available to the citizens so that they understand how their tax dollars are funding county operations that serve them, and whether they're being served in a way that is working for everybody. So that's the third leg of the stool. It's the performance measurements, it's the easily accessible financial information, and then it's the strategic direction. Where are we going as a community? Now, in our meeting tomorrow night, we have a motion on the agenda, and it's a very it's the first step. It's a baby step forward in trying to make progress in communicating more effectively with citizens. And what we're doing is we're asking the county manager and his staff to come back to us with specific recommendations, cost implications, and timelines for improving the communication between the council and citizens in these specific three areas. It's going to be a great way for the council to understand what are the opportunities available to us. There's going to be some I am quite sure there are some very inexpensive ways that we can implement in the short term to get better information out. And then there's going to be some other areas like improving the website that are, developing back-end technology to easily track certain performance measures. That's going to take more time, but the great thing about our conversation tomorrow is that we're going to start the discussion with the county manager, ask him to come back to us with specific recommendations in the near term. And so I'm delighted to have this opportunity to talk and explain this in more detail about what it is and what it isn't. Our current PR department, communications people, they do a great job in their roles. And this is the first time I think the council, and the council has always been very strong and effective, but we've identified this as an opportunity for improvement, and it's an important one. Transparency depends on this kind of information being communicated to citizens. It won't happen. We cannot have an open and transparent government without citizens understanding our strategic direction, financial information, and what kind of how our performance is. So I encourage anyone who is interested in this subject to come to the meeting tomorrow night. It's last on the agenda, so it'll be at the very end of the meeting, but if you would like to come and make public comment or show your support for this effort, certainly I welcome it, and I know there are other councilors that are eager to move forward on this area.
Well, Councilor O'Leary, thank you so much for speaking with us, and we're very interested as a newspaper. The Los Alamos Daily Post will be following this closely, and we would really welcome you to come back and give us an update as this progresses with the staff looking into ways to see how this could be implemented, how this strategy could be implemented.
I would love to come back. Thank you so much. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Yeah.